I was scammed by Optima Tax Relief Services. They charged me $9,500 to basically do my taxes, which were backed up for a few years because I was working in combat zones. And essentially, they overpromised and underdelivered on the taxes. I can start with just telling you that, I'm a public servant. I work in the federal government and I was at a combat zone for several years. And during that time, I was behind on my taxes, obviously, um, because I didn't have access to my financials, etc. So I was looking for a tax relief company to help me out with taxes. And I should have checked beyond Google. I should have checked Yelp and other resources, which I did not. So I ended up with Optima Tax and thinking that they had good ratings. They mentioned that they were trust verified, that they had been approved by the BBB. And so this was around 6 months ago. I signed up with them. And when I first landed my first investigative sort of interview with them, where they were inquiring about my tax situation and how they can help, they were over promising. The person, am I allowed to mention names here? Yeah, so the
Yes.
person who did my intake interview, she seemed very knowledgeable. Her name was Annette Martinez, and at Optima Tax, and she basically claimed that um, you know they're going to look at all the um, various details that I have, such as the house ownership and all the expenses, and look into bank statements, and do a very thorough review and ensure that I don't overpay my taxes. And they ensured that they would do fulfill all the needs for the few years that I have been behind on my taxes. And she overpromised, but within a few weeks, I learned, after the 15-day money back guarantee period, I learned that very quickly that they were completely incommunicado with me. I had to follow up with them after I ended up um, ensuring, basically giving them $9,000 worth of my credit card payments, which would be done in installments of over several months. So they said to resolve my situation cost about $9,500, and that somebody would be in touch with me. Nobody inquired or reached out to me. And then one day I received a message in my email saying that they have completed my tax work and that I needed to provide wet signatures. I looked at each of the tax returns and they were completely erroneous and badly done. And I reached out to Optima saying, who has completed this information? I need to talk to them. The person on the that they handed to me was supposedly my case manager. He did not speak English. He was incomprehensible, did not understand US tax laws. He was very difficult to speak with, or and he was rude and offensive and had absolutely no knowledge of my situation. I kept sending him my expense reports. He's like, I don't need them. All I need is your signature. And each of the tax returns required me to overpay to the government, even though I already paid taxes. My work deducts taxes, heavily, and technically, I have expenses enough to say that I should be getting money back from the government. But instead, you could see the big gaps in knowledge and the lack of understanding of US tax laws, and then very offensive and rude behavior. When I inquired, I said, I'm happy to help him figure this out. And he would just be like, just sign off the tax returns and get done with it. Um, I learned later that he was just a bookkeeper with very little knowledge of the US tax system. I requested Optima since October last year for an alternate case manager. They did not respond to any of my requests. They just kept doing these weird automated phone calls requesting more documents from me, but there was no actual person. Every time I returned a call back, because they called me at odd hours, um, nobody would pick up the call. So essentially, let's just say they were incommunicado. I ended up paying $9,500, not getting any money back um, for that. So when I explained to them very recently on the 27th of December, was it? Or actually, more recently, to that Jan 3rd or Jan 4th, that they about this whole situation, I spoke to their external customer relations. She assured me on a recorded line in good faith that I will get all my money back. They have up, up to today, they have deducted about close to say $7,000 out of the 9,500 that's supposed to be in the credit card system. And she said, the only thing I'm not going to return back to you is your $475 of investigative fees, but we'll go ahead and return everything else back. And that was done on a recorded line. And I was under the impression that that was going to really happen. But when the time came for me to receive the return, I received an email saying, here's your $800 something dollars. This is what you're going to get back. And there was some sort of a disclaimer clause saying you're not going to, complain about Optima. You're not going to report about Optima, blah, blah, like, some sort of a legal statement. And I was very uncomfortable. One, you know, I deserve more than what they had offered of 895 or something dollars. And they had violated an oral contract. It was a breach. A promise was made, and she broke the promise. Um, Sandra Jordan from the external customer relations, she broke the promise very, very egregiously. I have never dealt with an America-based tax company um, of this nature. It was corrupt. It's something that I could have encountered overseas while working overseas, which I would have avoided anyway, being part of the U.S. government. But I feel like IRS needs to know that there are these very problematic companies out there. And after the fact, I did a Yelp research and I learned that there are hundreds of other people with similar situations who've paid up to $10,000, got zero services back. So this company needs to, perhaps be taken to the court of law as a class action lawsuit sort of thing. So, and I haven't heard back from Optima since. I'm a public servant. I work very hard for my money. I've paid my dues to our beautiful country, the United States of America, and as an American taxpayer, I who 9,000 something dollars is not a joke for someone like me, and I would like to get my full amount of money back from Optima as they had promised last week. Um, and then, the other solution I would like to request is I am very questionable about this very inscrutable company with inscrutable corrupt practices. I'm concerned that they would continue to, you know, if they have my data, I'm concerned about data breaches, them selling the data. I just don't trust them anymore. And I would like my data wiped out of their system so they don't capitalize or use that in a corrupt manner. Additionally, I just want them reported to the IRS and to the California Attorney General's office so that, future customers don't get duped by them like this. So, but just to retrieve my money back from Optima Tax Relief Services, my hard earned money.